All right, what's that? There's no walking around.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming. My name is Anna Munifo. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm the Director of Events at the Shoreline Chamber. Thank you for coming to Webster Bank's Women in Business. This is our last speaker series. I just wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors for the Women in Business. It's Fusion, Elaware Tea Shops, and Ann Garland Enterprises, as well as, of course, Webster Bank. So well, with no further ado, I will welcome Ann Garland, who will introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Anna. Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
How's
lunch? Where's Jennifer? Thank you, Jennifer. Wherever Jennifer is. Anyway, we really appreciate her hosting today. I want to talk about our speaker, George. He is actually a veteran, and how appropriate that today is Veterans Day, so we can honor him in his service back in Vietnam. So when he told me he was a veteran, my first response was, thank you. And his response was, do you know how difficult it was back then when he came back from Vietnam, that there weren't many things. So it's nice that nowadays we do thank our military. And so George, his career spans over 40 years as a manager and executive for some of the most prestigious companies in the U.S., such as IBM, Fidelity Investments, Oracle, Lotus Development, CSC, what is that?
Computer Science Corporation.
Thank you. United Health Group and Travelers Insurance, to name a few. He calls upon his experience as a business leader to inspire organizations and individuals to achieve personal success and to exceed business goals through dramatic improvements in people leadership behaviors, helping to transform organizations from the tired leadership practices of the past into more profitable, people-driven enterprises for the 21st century. George shares his leadership philosophy in 3 published books, the most popular of which is the best-selling Leadership Secrets from the Executive Office. He is a graduate of Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and is a U.S. Army veteran, having served with combat intelligence in Vietnam. He has 3 children, lives here in Connecticut, and he can be reached. Do you have your website up there? Okay, so we're going to take it away, George.
Okay.
I feel like a take it away, George.
Thank you. Thank you again, Annie. I appreciate that. Thank you all for coming. We're going to talk about women in leadership, women leaders. But I think you're going to find as we go through this that you'd like to have a whole lot of men here to hear what you're about to hear. Okay? So without further ado, because I know we're on a hard 1:30 time shot, so we'll do our best to get through the material as quickly as possible. All the quotes that I use in this presentation are from men. Joseph Conrad, a great writer, author, he says, being a woman is a terribly difficult task since it consists principally in dealing with men. I think you'd all agree, right? And by the way, us men, we also have a tough time dealing with men, in business especially. Okay? Let me tell you, I like to tell stories because they help to reinforce the message. This is a quick story. I'll do my best. I was a manager at IBM in Hartford, and the branch manager came to me one day and he said, John Doe has got to be fired. And I said, why? What's the problem with John Doe? I won't give you his name because this is a true story. He said he got a call from Urs Sitkin at Aetna, who was the CIO of Aetna, said, get rid of this guy because he doesn't wear his teeth. I said, what? He doesn't wear his teeth, John told me. I said, I didn't even know he had false teeth. Is that what it is? He said, yes. He said, you got to get rid of this guy. I said, wait a minute. There are only 3 reasons on IBM policy for firing anybody, and this is not one of them, okay? But I was trained to be a leader by IBM. And they always fall back on the number 1 basic belief at IBM. Anybody know what it is, the number 1? Respect for the individual. That is IBM's number 1 basic belief. So I knew that I could fall back on respect for the individual and respect this person for whatever his problem was. So I said to John Doe, I said, look, you know, you were good enough to be hired here. You're good enough to do anything. So we got to find something else for you to do because Aetna doesn't want you back. And I can't put you in Travelers and I can't put you in Hartford Steam Boiler or any of the other places we serve because you got a problem, okay? It's a disgusting problem, frankly. I said, we got to find something. What is it that you like to do? And he said, well, when I get up in the morning, I think about my job as a secretary of the Lions Club in Connecticut. I said, whoa, that's cool, right? He says, Dad, I really enjoy doing it. It's about giving back and helping people in our community. And so it just so happens that Jack Thompson, the branch manager, his wife, was working at the Hartford Rehabilitation Center, where they train handicapped people to operate machines. But they knew that they had to switch to computers. So they said, we need to have maybe IBM's help teaching them how to use computers. So these were people with really bad handicaps. I don't even go into it. It's really, it's very emotional. So I had a meeting with the director in a few days. I said, why don't you come with me? Let's see if we can find a project to help move them over to train using computers. So he did, he went with me. He wasn't wearing his teeth. And so I was wearing mine. So he sits down with me across the table from the director, and she's talking to him. He's asking her questions, going back and forth. I said, there's no reason for me to stay here. You guys are doing really well. I'm going back to the branch office. So I did. He comes back 3 hours later. He's got a whole plan laid out for getting a contribution from IBM. Okay? He said, do you want to read the plan and prove it? I said, no, you got a good plan here. I trust you. Let's go with it. He did. I just at that point got promoted to IBM in San Francisco, of all places, right? And so I lost touch with all the people in Hartford. Then I'm working for Lotus Development in Cambridge, right? The 123 people, if you know your history in computers. So I'm running the consulting division of Lotus. And I get a letter from John Doe. He says, George, I know that you were supposed to fire me by Jack Thompson, the branch manager, but you didn't do it. You talked to me about what I really like to do, and I want to tell you what I've done since then. It goes on and on and on. Signed, John Doe, Director of IBM Handicap Services at IBM headquarters in Armonk, New York.
Cool. Nice.
True story. I'm going to tell you some other stories, but I wanted to start off with this one because I want to ask you, I want you to think about what it is that I did that other people, other men, wouldn't have done, okay? And how men need to change. What is leadership? Well, here's the typical organizational structure, whether it be the Chamber of Commerce, or it is IBM, or Aetna, or whoever else. There is a top tier of the organization and a bottom tier, right? Well, typically, the top tier are the thought leaders. They are the ones thinking good thoughts about where they should put their investments and where the price of the stock should go, and should they merge with other companies, et cetera, right? On the other side, though, there's people leaders. Look at the difference in percentage. These are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. A lot of what you're going to see are actual statistics and data that I have done over the years in my research. Look at the difference. Almost 5% of the organization is in the top. These are the executives, typically, right? The CEO, the CFO, et cetera. And down here are the people leaders, people who actually help the workers to understand their job and help them succeed at what they're doing. And we're not just talking about business leaders, we're talking about people in different forms of life, right? Everyone in this room is a leader at some point in your life. Even a 5-year-old child is a leader if she is organizing a kickball game in the schoolyard. That's leadership. Here are some other examples of leaders, right? And you'll see, I put quotes every now and then at the bottom of the screen. You'll see this one, it's everyone is a leader because everyone influences someone at some time in their life, okay? And in some role. So what do these leaders have in common? right? Building better relationships, right? Caring for other people, taking care of them and caring for them. Respect and trust those who they influence. They also listen and learn from others. And they inspire people. They also have effective communication skills, and they help people succeed at what they do. That is what a leader's job is. There is no other job a leader has than to help other people be successful at what they're doing. Finally, they're also good followers. There are a lot of people who say you cannot be a good leader if you don't know how to follow. Okay, let's define leadership. This is my definition. The ability to positively affect the thinking and behavior of others. That's all it is. The ability to positively affect the thinking and behavior of other people. Okay, more lessons learned. The Stanley lady. I don't know if you all know this story, but there was a woman. Her name was Mary. I won't go into the specifics, okay? But she was working in the marketing department of Stanley in New Britain, and she was retiring. So her boss called her in and said, Mary, look, you're a very smart woman. You're energetic. You're trustworthy, honest. I just can't imagine you and your husband retiring to a trailer park in Florida. Have you ever thought about doing something special after you retire? She said, well, I've always had a dream of starting my own business. You know who she is? Yeah? Okay. Okay. So he said, what's keeping you from doing that? She said, well, I don't know how to start a business. I don't know how to fund it. I don't know how to organize it. I don't know how to hire people. I don't know how to do any of that. He said, what if we put a plan together, get you to training, get you to classes or whatever it might be, and you actually implement the plan and you achieve your dream of starting your own business. She did. They worked the plan together. She went off to start her own business, and you know her as Mary Kay. Okay? Now, here's why I like these stories. They're true, number one. But the importance of it is it really says something about how we treat one another. This manager of hers, and I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but this manager of hers thought enough of her to say, I want to encourage you. I want you to live your dream. I want you to go after it. Here's another one, the IBM guy. And I'm going to show you some of the stories about women yet. But the IBM guy, here is a guy, 18 years old. He was working on the assembly line in Endicott, New York, of IBM mainframe computers, right? The big, big monsters that are long gone. Anyway, his boss called him in one day. He would bolt the cabinets together. These are big, big cabinets, right, for the machines. And he said to him, and I'll use his name, John, as well. You know, you're really energetic. You're smart. You're always on time. We can count on you. A lot of respect for your fellow workers. What have you ever thought about doing? You're not going to do this for the rest of your life, bolting cabinets together for computers. You ever thought about what you want to do? I've always dreamed about being a doctor. So the manager said to him, listen, John, why don't you do it? Why don't you go on and be a doctor? He says, I don't know the first thing about it. I just graduated high school. I've never been to college. He said, well, listen, you got to go to pre-med, you got to go med school, you got to go internship, etc. Okay, that's a lot of money involved and everything. But what if you had a plan of action that said, this is how I'm going to do this? So he agreed. They put a plan together. He became IBM's chief physician. True story. Okay? It's about how we as leaders deal with people who we lead. How do we inspire them? How do we gain their trust? How do we admire them and respect them for what they do? So, women who seek to be equal with men lack ambition. Isn't that a great quote? Come on, snap out of it, okay? Don't try to be equal with us. Don't do it. It's not you want to be better than us, truly. I mean it. Now, first of all, take a look at all the women. I don't know if you can read all this, but look at all, these are all the top women in these companies right now. And how about Meg Whitman of Hewlett Packard, right? How about Carly Fiorina? Forget the politics, right? She was a secretary. She was a secretary and rose to be the chief executive of Hewlett Packard. Now, she didn't, there's a lot of controversy around her termination there, but nevertheless, these are great women who've done some incredible things. Do you think they all sat around and said, I don't think I'll just do something else? No, these people said, we are going to be good at what we do. And because they were good, they were actually promoted because the company saw them as the potential. Here's another one. How about the heads of state? Are you ready for this? These are all the women currently presidents or not even ambassadors, but these are the highest people in every organization, in every country. Take a look. Isn't that incredible? Yeah. Okay. Zenger and Folkman. Have you ever heard about Zenger and Folkman? This is a consulting organization that does a lot of research in a lot of different subject matter, okay, around leadership. They spent 30 years looking at people leadership behavior. 30 years they have been looking at leadership. Remember, people leadership, not the thought leadership part of the triangle, the bottom part of the triangle. How leaders deal with people instead of just thoughts, right? 7,280 people they surveyed, leaders. They surveyed over these 30 years. They took a look at the top 16 competencies of a leader. Top 16. I'm going to show them to you in a minute. And they had to answer the question, are women better leaders than men? That's the actual title of the presentation. You see down at the bottom here, you can't read it, but that is a reference to the Harvard Business Review blog this was in. So you can go to it, read it yourself, okay? And if so, why? Why are women better leaders than men, if they are? So what they did was, they said, let's take a look at the 16 competencies. First of all, builds relationships, champions change, collaboration, teamwork, communications, connecting groups in the outside world, develops others, develops strategy, displays high integrity and honesty, right? How about the next 8 are what they did was they said, let's rank them by leadership competency. In other words, which is most important and which is the least important of the 16 competencies for leadership, right? So here they are. In order of importance, starting with takes the initiative all the way down to develop strategic perspective. Isn't that amazing? Just to see that list, okay? Then they did the survey results and they mapped them. They actually compared them to men. What do you think? What do you think you're about to see? How many of these do men surpass women on?
All.
No.
No.
You just said all? All
No.
men outscore the women on all of them?
No.
Who disagrees?
Women,
Yeah?
women do.
Oh, okay.
I know women do.
Here you go. Out of the 16, women beat the men 15 to 1. Look at the one that develops strategic perspective is almost equal. But in everything else, women outscored the men. We're going to talk about why in a minute. Now, here's an interesting point. We talk about people leadership. Look at those tops. Those are the top 9 in terms of importance and leadership. Look at that. I didn't change anything. This is exactly what they said. So superior leadership skills, people leadership skills, this is where women do far better than men. What about the others? Look at this. Superior thought leaders. In other words, the women are also superior thought leaders to men. Not as much a margin, but still women provide better thought leadership than men do. Isn't this amazing? Next. They also looked at leadership function, not just the leadership attribute. But look at the different functions here and how women did. Sales, marketing, customer service. Well, customer service with men, that was almost the same. Operations, et cetera, down to quality management and administrative and clerical. Here again, the women outscored the men. consistently. Why are women better leaders than men? I'm about to tell you, okay? Now, this might be controversial. Men are hunters, women are gatherers, right? It's in our DNA. Kill the umpire, right? Kill the competition. That's what we men do, okay? Women will negotiate. Women will think of the thoughtful issues of the day and come up with better ideas. Watch this. Whoops. They kill things, men, and women bring things to life. Men are feared, women are respected. I'm telling you, this is I didn't make this stuff up. This is my research that you all have access to. At the end, you'll see the research that I used, the sources. Okay, next. Men are indifferent, women are sensitive. Men are tough, women are thoughtful. Men are callous, women are caring. Men put business first, women put people first. This is my own experience in 45 years in business, okay? As well as the research that you will see. All right, here's another piece of research. This is the ways that women lead from a survey of men and women leaders, Judy Rosner, Harvard Business Review, 1990, right? Men are more likely than women to describe themselves in ways that characterize transactional leadership. What's transactional leadership? Just a point in time, like standing at the cash register, taking the money, and handing the person the product. That's a transaction. What are women more focused on? Relational relationships, right? How we get along with one another, how we collaborate, how we use one another for making decisions instead of just sitting in an office behind a desk and making a decision and imposing it on everybody. There you go. Women, on the other hand, describe themselves in ways that characterize transformational leadership. They inspire subordinates to transform their own self-interest into the interests of the group through concern for a broader goal. You see why there should be men in this audience, folks? Right? Okay.
One.
Here are some more. I'm not going to go into the detail because of the time. Women are charismatic. Women are inspirational. Women are intellectually stimulated. And women are individual, they take consideration on the individual level with all the detail here, okay? So I'm not going to go into the detail for this. Again, this is data from people. It's amazing to me. If you go out on the internet and just put in there women leadership, it's amazing all the stuff you're going to see. All the articles that are written, the reports, and et cetera. Then why aren't more women in leadership positions? I'm about to share it with you and what you can do about it. Men see their jobs as thought leaders. Remember we showed you the thought leadership at the top of the pyramid? Because men are doing what? They're out there killing stuff, right? Making deals and tearing up the pavement and whatever it takes to get things done. And I like this photograph here. Okay? Women see their job as people leaders. I would actually disagree and say that women see their jobs as both people leaders and thought leaders. Men don't deal well with other people in a leadership function. Okay? Now I'm just being, that's a generality. Obviously you know some people who would disagree with you, some men especially who would disagree. I understand that, but this is coming from research and general reports about this, so I'm just sharing that not as a generalization, okay? I guess, but many men, leaders, are stuck in the 20th century. I actually do a speech on 21st century leadership, and what is the difference between the 20th century and the 21st century? What do you think about that? What is a company that's in the 20th century, or was? Bell Labs, Bell Telephone, right? IBM, right? Who's in the 21st century out there right now?
iPhone.
right? Apple,
Google,
Apple, right? Facebook. These are 21st century businesses. Whole different story. There's an actually, I've seen the video where at Apple out in California, the bus arrives from the parking lot, picking up all the new employees. They're all on this bus. They get off, and there are hundreds of Apple employees lining the walkway to the front door, screaming and yelling and clapping their hands to welcome them to the business. Wow! Do you think they've done that anyplace else? I've never heard of it, right? Okay. Many of them have biases to which they don't admit, right? We know that. Business goals are their number one priority, and maybe their only priority. Most men, 92%, have never had a single minute of leadership development in their careers. What right do we have to lead people if we don't know how to do it? That would be like a plumber not knowing how to fix your toilet. But you call on him? Well, I don't know what to do. What do you think I should do here? Wait a minute. Leadership development is critical. You cannot just do it on the job. You cannot spend 30 years finding out what you did 30 years ago wrong, right? Leadership development is critical. I'm not here to sell it. Don't misunderstand. I don't do leadership development. There are a lot of people who do. And most men aren't rewarded for developing leaders. Do you know that? If you look at performance review of a manager, a male manager, right? Do you think there's anything in there that says help the ladies in your organization, the women in your organization to be leaders? You think they're doing that? No, no way. Businesses do not put that sort of thing in their performance plan. They should. Okay, men have to snap out of it and fast. Remote, first of all, remove gender-biased adjectives from job descriptions. I'll show you what they are. They're in the next page, okay? Next slide. Include women leaders in the job interview and hiring process. Now, for those of you who are owners, include men in the hiring process together, right? And if you are in a situation where you're working for a man, you should encourage that man to involve you in the interviewing process to hire new people. Okay? Ask candidates for context-relevant information. In other words, if you're hiring an attorney to be part of your legal staff, then you ought to be asking questions of that candidate that are specific to being a lawyer. What is your courtroom behavior? What laws have you upheld or had to deal with in terms of defending your client, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Context-relevant questions or information. Now, by the way, this is why I'm saying, I'm sure a lot of you are saying, boy, there should be men in the room to hear all this, right? Mm-hmm. And then be a mentor to women. Men should be mentors to help anybody who they want to move in the leadership chain. Give women opportunities to lead. Second to the last page, right? I won't go through the whole thing. I just say this. When women prove to you that they are better leaders, promote them faster than men. The last one, being Veterans Day, okay? Bet on a vet. Do you know an interesting, I won't read the whole thing, but do you know what's interesting? 17% of veterans are unemployed today. Do you know that? However, we veterans have been taught to lead from the very beginning. Do you know we're the only country in the world that actually teaches every first private all the way up to the 4- and 5-star generals and admirals to lead? Here's why. In a combat situation, if you've got a captain who's leading your unit and that captain is killed or taken out of the action, then the lieutenant has to take over, right? If the lieutenant is injured or removed from the field, then guess what? The sergeants have to take over. I was a staff sergeant. When the sergeant goes, then who's going? The corporal. Then the corporal, then down to the private. What if there's one person left in the foxhole, that person's got to know how to lead, has got to know how to do the job that every one of them does in terms of communication, in terms of strategy and tactics, and how to use their weapons, and all these other things that the higher echelon would know. Do you know that? That's amazing. Do you know what they bring to your business? They bring leadership, number one. How about teamwork? They know how to work with one another, right? Discipline, responsibility, honesty, respect. Too many of us are unemployed. Can you imagine what it would be like to have more veterans in your organization? Men and women. Boy, I know Vietnam combat women veterans. Do you know, here's an example. In Vietnam, who was my captain? Captain Shirley Dover. Let me tell you something. She said, she didn't just say, go out there and go do your job, which was, we had to take North Vietnamese and Viet Cong captives and then interrogate them and take hold of them and then bring them back, okay? She didn't just say, go out there and do this in the middle of a firefight. She was out there with us. She said, because I need to take care of you guys. I want to make sure you all come back alive. Okay. Ask for help from the Human Resources Department if you have one, okay? Here are the gender-based job descriptions. Look at I'm not going to go through these. These are the words that people have put into job descriptions that imply one gender or another. These have to be removed from your want ads. Don't use these words in your job description because it implies a woman or a man, okay? How are we doing? Just 5 minutes?
Yeah.
5, okay. Yeah, we're right there. Here you go. And women have to be themselves. Let me tell you, I'm pleased and excited to tell you this. Again, this comes from research. Be your honest self. Don't try to behave like men. Don't ever try to behave like men. We are assholes. So I'm serious, don't try to be like us. Okay? Let your senses guide your behavior. If you have a gut feel about something, go with your gut. Men don't go with their guts. They go with something else. Okay? So they're not thinking it through. They're not taking that sensation in their body, in their brain that says, here's what we got to do. How about this? Don't let people tell women, tell you women that you're just plain emotional. Do you know why? Because good leaders are emotional. Do you know whenever I'd hire a manager in all my career, one of the questions I'd ask him or her, have you ever cried with your employee? Have you ever sat there at your desk and just cried because of what this employee has got, or the problem this employee got? If they said no, I said, thank you, we don't need you. You have to be emotional. You have to care. You have to want that person to feel better about themselves and about what they're doing. And if they're not ready to empathize with them and figure out a good solution, then let me back about John Doe and the no teeth, okay? I sat there and cried with him when I had to tell him that he couldn't go to any other insurance company again because of his teeth. I did. I cried with him. It's something, and maybe it's because my mother was Irish and Italian. And I never could figure out how my grandparents got together and stopped arguing long enough to have children, you know. Anyway. And I'll tell you, being Irish and Italian, there's a lot of emotion in here, okay? Along with olive oil flowing through my body all the time. I just do it. Ask a male leader to mentor, sponsor, or guide you, right? Develop an implementable career plan and get support for it, especially if you're in a larger organization. And be confident and ask your leader for leadership opportunities. Here's one of the things that you really have to think about. If you're working for another person, a man or a woman, All you have to really do is say, listen, I think I can help out on a leadership level, but I need your support, right? And give me an opportunity. How about a project? If you can give me just a project to do, right? Well, it's called the puppy dog close. Let me go to you briefly. This is the last slide. It's called the puppy dog close. It's a sales technique. Have you ever heard of it? Okay, you can use this. Any of you are in the sales, but it's basically this. It comes from the fact that on a Saturday morning, let's say, the family would come through the village and they would stop at the pet store because the pet shop owner would be putting puppies in the window. And the two kids were right up against the window, right? And they were going, oh, Mommy, isn't this great? We would love to have this little puppy at home. And the parents are going, oh, damn, this is going to be terrible, right? The pet shop owner would come out and he'd say, excuse me, to the father, come on in for a second, I'm going to talk about it. So they would go back into the pet shop, and the pet shop owner would say, listen, I can see your kids are all excited about these puppies, and it would be terrifying. It would be terrible for them if they were not able to take a puppy home. And I know you're worried about it and all this, but here's the idea. You buy the puppy and all the the fixings to go with it, right? The crate and the dog food and all this other stuff. You take him home, and after a week, if he doesn't work out, you bring him back and I'll give you all your money back. The puppy dog clothes. What happens? Are they ever going to see that puppy back again? No way. That's called the puppy dog clothes. We actually use it in IBM. If you disagree, if I'm trying to sell you a computer, right? And you say, well, we're not really needing a computer right now. It's too much money. I can't see the value in it. Listen, I got an idea. How about if we just roll this in to your business, okay? We'll bring you this computer. You get to work with it. After a week, if you don't find anything worthwhile, bring it back. So, happens all the time. It's just, there's a lot of different, we don't have time to go through all the different sales techniques that IBM had, okay? Anyway, here are the sources. Again, you're going to see, you don't have to write this down or anything. You're going to see the slide in the video that has all this on it, okay? And here's my contact information. Also, I'm going to do a little bit of marketing in advance. I've done 5 books now, all on leadership. And I'm now doing a romance thriller called And I Always Will with 1 L. You don't even know why it's only 1 L until the very last words of the book. It's going to beat Gone Girl 1,000 times over. It is an amazing story.
And if we don't like it, we'll give it back.
That's great. You ought to try that. You really ought to try that when you go into a store and say, if I don't like this book, I'm bringing it back, okay? Any questions, comments, or what have you? Has this been worthwhile? I mean, is it?
It's been enlightening.
Has it? Yeah. Good. And I hope that I hope you have the right message. I know it's a struggle for some of the things we're talking about here. A struggle because there are men who you may be working with who haven't seen this information. They don't know, right? And so you may have an uphill battle with them, right? So again, it was hopefully it was helpful to you. My suggestion is that once the video is actually done and available, maybe you can give people the URL, the domain to get to see it, and maybe learn from it. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you all.
And I just want to say before you all leave that this is the end of our series, and our team, our committee will be getting together in December and putting together our programs for 2016. So our next meeting won't be until February of 2016. So I know that the Chamber will keep us informed of this year, like the networking, speed networking, everybody seemed to like that, and a couple of other programs. We're going to do a repeat. So have a great holiday, and I'm sure I'll be seeing some of you around. So thank you, George.
Thank you.
Thank you to Miss Jennifer. Thank you for hosting. This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
front end,